Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder, it's time to talk about a new event idea that would be nice to see maybe over this year. It's kind of a longer version of what we kind of already have had in previous years, because one of the biggest issues that events such as Operation S.U.M.M.E.R had, especially when it came to the second stage of it, was the main complaint was that there wasn't enough time, especially for people if they had to go on holiday or if they decided that week, they had to work full time and all of this. So I think taking the idea of Operation S.U.M.M.E.R Assemble a Tank, which was the IS-7 and the T-34E event, and putting it over a longer period of time with different goals and so forth, I think could work great. So, let's go through the components and then put it all together. So, the first thing to understand is Operation S.U.M.M.E.R. So, what was this? Well, it was the event last year where you could get your hands on an IS-7. And before we get into it, I thought I would just show you the skins that you could get for completing 11 of the challenges for the festive event. So this is the Focke-Wulf 190 skin. You can see it's quite nice, very similar to the Focke-Wulf D13 skin that we have, and then this is the T30 skin, so once again, quite a lovely skin as well. But anyway, let's talk about the big boy, the IS-7. The IS-7 is sat somewhere in the tech tree. Where you at? There you are. So this is the IS-7, and to get it, you had to do a very long form event, which actually you needed to use the workshop area that you see here. And the idea was you could grind out parts for the IS-7 over time, along with some rare parts, and if you followed the recipes, which were, kind of RNG, if you followed the recipes, you could put the IS-7 together, assemble it, and create what you see before you. Now, as a community, once we figured out all of the different recipes and which ones were the correct ones, we were able to come together and make the IS-7 grind a lot easier for basically everyone. And what I really liked about this event was the fact that it took ideas from previous events, such as the first stage, because remember, there was 2 stages to this event. The first stage where you just had to do tasks, and the task got you coupons for the T-34E and the first half of the IS-7 blueprint, and then the construction of said stuff came afterwards. So there was 2 massive parts to the IS-7 and the T-34E event. The first one was very much similar to the festive event that we have now, and the second part was the actual construction of the 2 vehicles. So in the construction part, the way it worked is you would earn a specific amount of parts, or it was basically, I believe, like for the IS-7, it was like 3 to 5, and then 1 to 3 for the T-34E, and you would get these parts over time, and you would also get rare parts while you were playing, and these rare parts would go into the recipes along with the other parts, and you'd be able to build components for the IS-7. Once you built all the components, you could put them together, and how's your father? That's basically how it worked. So it was a cool event from a community point of view because there was a lot of working together. There was a lot of working out which recipes to use. There was a lot of stuff which was interesting to look at, basically the different rare parts they were using and all of this. If we want to go back even further to the April Fool's event last year, which is where they actually trialed this idea, we had the Furry Tiger and the Cobra Cobra. So I don't actually have the Cobra Cobra, but I do have the Furry Tiger, and this was just a Tiger-E, which they put a furry skin on, or as you can see, the tiger camouflage, making it a premium vehicle. So on April Fool's, you had 2 days or 2.5 to 3 days to grind out both vehicles. It was technically possible to do, but they designed it so you could only really do one unless you didn't want to sleep and just wanted to fill yourself full of energy drinks. So for me, obviously I didn't want to do that, so I only got the Furry Tiger. But they trialed out this workshop system and it worked pretty well. I liked the idea of it, and I think it should be used for future events. So taking those 2 ideas forward, I want to incorporate especially this part of it, the resources and parts and the vehicle assembly idea, into events going forward, but I want to make them larger. I don't want them to be stuck just a week at a time. Instead, I want to look for a a period of time, whether it's like 3 months or 6 months, for this idea. Because something that I realized is if we actually go to War Thunder, we have monthly challenges or monthly things to do. So these will be found in the War Bond shop. This changes over every month, and the idea is you can earn yourself a premium vehicle every month if you do the challenges, if you do the special tasks, if you do the dailies, and if you do the tiers. So if you're able to do that, that's your monthly challenge. That is something to work towards. Now, obviously, you have your daily tasks, which are right here. These also are something to work towards while you are doing the other stuff. And then you also have weekly challenges as well, in the form of decals. If you didn't know right now, obviously, we have the pin-ups that you can see here. But normally every week you have a list of decals that you can earn through doing challenges. So we have dailies, we have weeklies, we have monthlies. Let's expand. Let's look for something else which is a bit longer than the general festive event, which takes, let's see, around about, this one was from the 21st of December. Wait a sec. Was from the 21st of December to the 13th of January. So pretty much just less than a month, like 3 weeks, to get the Focke-Wulf 190C and the T30. Why not expand it to a few months period? And let's go through how to do that. So the idea would be that you set up something like you find in Company of Heroes Ardennes Assault. Now, I actually did a playthrough of this expansion of Company of Heroes 2. And for me, it was my favorite part of Company of Heroes 2. And the main reason was how resources worked, how the maps worked, and how everything came together. So in Company of Heroes 2 Ardennes Assault, the way that it works is you start off with your own general area, and then the Germans invade, as you can see from the red areas, and you have to take your 3 squadrons, or 3 battalions, or whatever they are, to basically attack specific areas. And once you attack these specific areas, you take them for your side, and you also can basically choke out others. So you can see in this map on Baston outskirts, because this thing is not connected to any of the other ones, it's going to lose resources over time, so you can kind of chokehold them, which is kind of nice. On top of this, you can attack aggressively into here, and be able to take land for yourself, and every time you win a battle, you get some special bonuses out of it, or special achievements, which help bolster your ranks. You can also, from each of the squads that you see here, you can reinforce them through requisition points, or you can upgrade them through requisition points. So the idea is the more battles you play, you are going to take more losses, but you can make the troops that you have better, or you can reinforce those losses. It's really up to you. So there was a lot to it, and it was really interesting. And if you want to know more information, I did do a playthrough of it, 3 years ago at this point, so quite a long time ago, and my voice sounds a hell of a lot more British then, which is kind of funny. But for me, I like the idea of this map. I like the idea of having a zone in front of you that you can conquer. And generally, we actually have this in War Thunder. It's called the Dynamic Campaign. Now, the Dynamic Campaign you can actually find as a general outlook in the game. So if you go here, let's just say Siege of Malta, let's just go for that, and then it updates your online profile, and you can see we have the starts of what we see in Ardennes Assault. We have our general bases of our allies, we have the enemy bases, and we have where we have to attack. Now, if you apply, you can actually, pick a mission, you can actually pick a mission to play, which will give you access to other zones, or which will, reinforce your guys, or diminish the enemy's numbers. The idea is you are trying to take over the majority of the zones, you are trying to get rid of the enemy forces, and eventually you will win that campaign. That's pretty much how it works. So for me, the building blocks for a situation like this are already in the game in the form of the dynamic campaign. So we have to try and mix that idea with what we see from the IS-7 events, which is the building, the vehicle assembly, and even maybe these tasks here. how do we do this? Well, here's another example of how we could do this, at least from the Shogun Total War point of view. So if you never played Shogun 2, there was a system in it called kind of Clan Wars, and the idea was you would start off with your clan in multiplayer, and you would play clans which were equal level to you, and every time you won, you would take over a bit more of an area, and then so you'd get bigger. So because you were bigger, you were able to face larger clans, and then you would face, keep facing larger clans if you kept winning, so you'd get more space on the map. So overall, you would dominate a sector, and then you could fight other sectors which were from larger clans. That was basically how it worked. So once again, some kind of multiplayer version of the Company of Heroes 2 Ardennes Assault idea. So, it is possible to do from a multiplayer point of view. But for me, I would like to keep it individual. I'd like to keep it independent from everyone else. Otherwise, we get into like a World War mode. So, how do we do this? My idea would be you start off with a situation like this that you see on the map, and from there, what you do is each zone that you have to conquer, you have to do a special mission. So that special mission can be kill 50 ground units. It could be kill 5,000 ground units, depending on how far you wanted to make it. But you could only do one individual mission at once. So you can't do multiple missions at the same time. Therefore, if let's say you're in March and you go into Lianu, the idea is you only focus on that one primary mission. And once you do that, you move on to that zone, take it over, and then you move on to the next zone. Now, there is a game out there which has kind of already done this. This is called World of Tanks. And World of Tanks, what they've done is set up a personal missions idea. Now, if you're not really familiar with this, the idea is you have a map, and from this map that you can see here, and then when you click on these, you actually get the individual maps. You get to do individual missions that you can see here. Once you complete the individual mission, you get the reward from that mission, and you move on to the next one. And at the end of it, if you complete all of the missions from said operation, you get yourself a vehicle. So in this form, we have this machine, which is I can't remember what it's called. It's a machine that was never built. The Excalibur, there we go. So the idea is you have a set of missions to do, and as you do the missions for the particular nation, once you complete all of them, you get access to a special premium vehicle. So why not take that idea and plonk it into War Thunder with the pre-existing stuff we already have in the form of the dynamic campaign. You could even chuck it in World War mode if you really felt like it, because that kind of is something which, we could see taking off as well. They have said that this year they want to expand World War mode, so if you wanted to incorporate it in this as well, that could be something that also happens. So we have the functionality there to set up an event which would be ongoing. Like it would be 3 months, it would be 6 months, it would be something like that. You set up different challenges for each point that you see on the map, and once you complete them, you get yourself, maybe a little bonus, maybe something such as like an RP booster or a Silver Lions booster, or maybe a discount for something. And then when you complete the whole map, you get an extended mission, which when you finish that extended mission, or the primary mission as it would be known, you get yourself the vehicle. So in being able to conquer the zones, you get yourself some, as I said, boosters or rewards in some way, plus parts, and then certain zones have special objectives which would give you the rare parts that you need for vehicle assembly, and then at the end of it, after doing all of this, you get a final mission which will give you the blueprint for the vehicle. You see? So over the campaign, you gather all the parts, and as I said, like the missions themselves would be the ones or similar in style to the ones that we have on the Festive Quest, or maybe you could even link them to like the achievements, so stuff like aircraft achievements, something like that. Like we already have some missions which are similar to what they use in other games. So you link them to them, you get a specific amount of parts per thing, you get the rare parts by doing special objectives, and you can build the tank as you go along, and then at the end of it, maybe not the blueprint, maybe you get the blueprint at the start, maybe you buy in like 10,000 2,000 silver line to unlock the campaign, something like that. So not a lot, depending on the rank of the vehicle, of course. But the idea is you have a final mission, and that mission is very hard to do, but once you do it, you get access to the vehicle. I think this would work great. I'm still wondering how to incorporate it with the Gaijin store stuff, but I feel like there are two ways you could do it. You could basically give people coupons of the vehicles when they unlock them, and then they can sell them on the Gaijin store. But the issue is, what I see with the Gaijin store right now, with the fact that the PS4 players and also the Xbox players don't get access to it, plus select countries don't get access to it, I feel like it would be something not to fully focus on. So leave that for the other events we have during the year, but keep this one individual, keep this one independent, leave it completely up to the player in order to get these vehicles. And obviously these would be event vehicles, hopefully premiums. They don't have to be, though. They could just even be rare vehicles that you can't get anymore, such as stuff like the TU2, such as stuff like the Lag 34, which is in the special box right now. So you can get it, but it's quite hard. So there are a ton of opportunities for vehicles. If they don't want to create new ones and they just want to do old ones, set up a event like this, and it means that you're interacting with a map. It means that it's very simple to see what's going on. You can see a progression of how far you've gone because of the amount of blue sectors you'd have compared to the red ones, and once the map is fully blue, once you get, the vehicle, you've got it. There's a great end goal, there's a lot of, missions to do in between, and it's something to focus on over a longer period of time, because as I said, we have stuff for dailies, we have stuff for weeklies, we have stuff for monthlies, therefore it is time to expand and look at other months, or, a third of a year or half of a year, a third of the year or half of the year events to try and satisfy, that need for people. So I think as War Thunder expands with the game modes that it has, with the amount of stuff going on, I think it is time to implement a system like this, which would be similar to the one we see from World of Tanks, with its personal missions, but with the pizzazz of the dynamic campaign, with the pizzazz of the vehicle assembly. I think it would work great together, and you could do this for ground, you could do this for air, you could do this for naval, you could do it for anything you wanted. As long as the prize at the end and the little prizes you get while doing the achievements is worth it, people will enjoy it, and it will give people something to strive forward for, instead of months like January and February where you see a hell of a lot of complaining because there isn't a lot of stuff going on with the game. Instead, give them these overall tasks to work on. I think that is something to do. Anyway, that's basically my idea, and hopefully we do see some longer events in War Thunder to get some interesting, cool vehicles. Technically you don't even have to put a time limit on it, right? You could just set it up as a campaign to do, over however long you play the game. There isn't a time limit, so eventually everybody will get access to it. It just means whenever they get access to it. Maybe you can put some limits on ranks and stuff like that, but overall, I personally think this would be a lovely idea, and it would never be locked behind, a paywall, or it would never be locked behind, it would never disappear. It would just be something that is ongoing in the game if you wanted to make it like that. But yeah, that's my idea. I think it could work really well. I know that people look down upon the IS-7 event and the T-34E event, but the only issue I really saw with it was the fact either people who didn't want to get involved with how the rare parts worked, or time. Time was the big one, and therefore if we can eliminate that fact and we could put in something else which would be, different, harder objectives, then I think people would be much more willing to look at the workshop and look at these events in a good light. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.